Delicious. That's a delicious beverage. Hi, everybody. Nice to see you. Nice to be here, too, on this side of the dirt. My name is Dean. We've got a fun show for you today. We got some political stuff to get to. We got some baseball stuff to get to.
You can't say that. You can't do that.
What do you mean?
You can't do that. You can't go, hey, we got a fun show, and then you go, and oh, by the way, it's gonna be all about politics.
I didn't say it's all about politics. They were gonna have some political stuff.
Okay.
And say we're doing politics today because I fucking hate politics.
Because that's not fun.
Although I do like the charade of politics. I've really kind of gotten into that over the past little while. But we're going to talk a little bit about politics today because Joe Rogan. You don't. I know you don't. You can take it.
No. I despise it on so many levels. I just want people to be honest.
Fat chance.
They literally bend you over. They totally violate you. And then they look you right in the eye and they go, didn't violate you.
There's no violation of your bung piece. No, they violate you. But we're going to talk about that violation and kind of how entertaining it could be because it works with what Joe Rogan did last week, where he took a big dump all over Canada. Called it a commie. What did he call it again?
He's got a bit of a. He's pissy about Canada for some reason.
Yeah,
I'm not sure why.
Well, I'll tell you why. Because he probably fucking gets paid to do it. I know the people that do it. So it's like a big, coordinated effort on behalf of the same alpha bros that want to usher in this age of bullshit. That's all it is, right, dude?
I will say this because
connect the dots. Peterson to Rogan, Peterson to Polyev. Connect all the fucking dots. Daily Caller to Peterson, the Daily Wire, Ben Shapiro.
You've got a lawsuit right now that's going to probably occupy a great deal of your time and energy. The last thing we need to do is because Rogan can be litigious. I will say this. Rogan doesn't pay his guests. So people don't come on. They don't make any money. And he has enough money that I don't think he's taking $5-6 grand to have some right-wing pundit on. The problem, I'll tell you what it is with Rogan. Rogan is one of those guys.
He's a fucking idiot.
I
have video proof of him being a fucking idiot. He's a fucking idiot.
I think what happens with him, because I've seen him, I think he adjusts
his fucking idiocy.
Who he is and his ideas depending on who's across from him.
Oh, for sure.
So, and I think he leans a certain way, and people know that now. So if they're more inclined to go, like people are inclined to go on that show, if they don't agree with him, they just try to keep it quiet because he's a very powerful person in the new broadcast landscape. You can say whatever you want about him. He's one of the biggest podcasts in the
100%.
world.
Let's just relax
and
look
new
in
ice tub.
A little
you're gonna get some. So I don't think he actually takes money to propagate some sort of narrative for any political parties. But
hey, listen. They all get paid. They all stroke each other. They all have these grifts going on. Every single one of them. Joe Rogan's new grift is this stuff called brain powder or something like that.
Oh, alpha dog or something.
Some fucking alpha dick. Some kind of alpha dick powder.
Well, no, that's on it. But he's
hang on.
Part of that company for years.
He is a lifelong grifter. That guy is nothing but a hanger-on. He rose to kind of semi-fame through fucking Fear Factor, and then he kind of rose to more fame by telling everybody which comedians stole which comedians' jokes. It was never about his own humor. Even his show isn't about his own opinion. His show is about other people's opinions that he happens to think are entertaining or fun, or that he might be able to tag into to get paid.
I kind of disagree with you.
Certain. Well, you can disagree all you like. It's a fact.
I think people, when they do this for a living, find ways to generate revenue, and he has found ways to generate revenue.
The only way all of them generate revenue is by selling magic boner supplements and brain powder. I mean, it's
but
all
I actually think he believes it, though. I think he believes that stuff works.
There's no way he believes
it. Yeah, he does.
He does.
And I think he takes it all. Look at him. Yeah, he looks like he pumps a lot. He looks like he pumps a lot of different. We have a celebrity death pool on the locker room.
Is he in it?
And I actually have him to take him in January because he has done more chemicals.
Death for anybody, but yeah, totally. The dude is like, I'll try all the drugs, and I kind of actually respect that about him. But last week, you know how he takes these little pot shots at Canada?
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
He's never really even been here. Like, that's the fucking thing about him. He's never spent like a significant amount of time here. He knows nothing about our electoral system, our party system, parliamentary system. He knows nothing about the vibe in Canada. So if you haven't been here and all you're doing is running the same jack-offs like what's his name? Jordan Peterson running through who's legitimately fucking unwell. Right, like he's just a fucking mess to the point where
you nailed it.
I enjoy it now. I'm enjoying the complete mental meltdown, emotional meltdown of Jordan Peterson and the whole crew, all of them. Who there's just I call them the alternative reality crew. Like Elon's part of the crew. Alex Jones is part of the crew. They just re-platformed Alex Jones. He's now back on Twitter. Everybody's losing their mind. I'm excited because he's so fucked. But they're just a bunch of alternative reality.
He was right about the frogs.
Cowboys. No, he wasn't.
Was right about the frogs and the windmills.
The gay frogs. No, he's not. So while everybody else is freaking out, I just enjoy the fact that they're trying to create an alternative reality for all the other young men who seem to think they can't get laid. That's really all they exist for. And then they pretend that they're in charge of the world and all the other shit. And we'll get to the spaces that Elon did with Alex Jones, Andrew Tate, and Vivek Smarmy Marmy, whatever the fucking guy's name is, which was absolute, it was just chaotic. But
I haven't listened to that one.
Oh, it's so funny. Back to Rogan. I listened to a portion of his podcast today based on the clip I'm going to play for everybody. And he's got some guy in, don't remember his name, who also knows nothing about the country that we've lived in our whole lives. We call home. We're citizens of Canada, which is an incredible social democracy, but it's more entrepreneurial than any other social democracy in the world. It is. We got the lowest inflation rate in the G7. No, you can't come at me like that because you don't have the information I have because you don't read. So you're wrong instantly. You're wrong. So bottom line is, Joe Rogan was asked if he was going to go to Canada by this guest who's also never really been to Canada. And keep in mind, Joe Rogan is high as fuck in this clip, like super high. Let's watch it and enjoy him tell us why he's never coming here again, which is really just a crushing blow. And then we'll talk about it after. Here it is.
You're going to miss his comedy.
Especially you live in the fucking frozen communist shithole of Canada.
Yeah.
It's cold. You get real cold water.
When's the last time you've been up there?
I don't go up there anymore.
You refuse, right?
Yeah. I just fucking... What they've done up there, what they did with the trucker rally and what Trudeau's doing with guns and what they're trying to clamp down on censorship on the internet, that guy can eat shit. Like, that place needs 100% an overhaul of government. Like they're sliding down that dangerous road of communism that scares the shit out of me.
Was see?
Look at mine, so fucking high.
I had a guy.
No, I don't want to soliloquy right now. I want to go through this one more time, and I want to point a couple things out. Then we can get to your opinion and thoughts. But I want you to pay special attention. Apparently, the guy who's on his show is Canadian. Never seen him, never heard him, never in my life. And when he asked him if he's ever going to go to Canada, I want you to notice how just wake and bake, stoned when he starts answering the question, which I kind of appreciate. But let's watch it, and then we'll get to some of the comments that he made. Specifically, a gentleman who's never been here, never met the prime minister, doesn't understand the electoral system, only gets his information from Jordan Peterson, and everybody on that side of the ledger who. They have had it in for Canada for some time because we are an incredible country. We're one of the freest countries in the world. But let's just watch this.
Pretty effective, especially you live in the fucking frozen communist shithole of Canada.
Yeah.
It's cold.
So, frozen communist shithole of Canada. Now, if the gentleman on his show is a Canadian and he's laughing at that, I would suggest to you that he's a piece of shit as well. He thinks it's funny. I don't know who he is. Eric? Who's the guy? Derek, Eric? Who the fucking care? I don't care less who the guy is. He's not a Canadian. He's persona non grata to me. And he's laughing as Joe calls it a frozen communist shithole. Frozen? Yeah. For, depending on where you are, for 3 to 4 months of the year. The rest of the time, it's beautiful. So he's got that wrong. Then he calls it a communist shithole, which we are absolutely not. Communism is a common phrase that we use from the 30s all the way through the mid-40s, if you remember, to paint everybody against fascism and to accept fascism and to go and kill commies. So that's just another Nazi talking point. It's fucking stupid. Shithole. He's never been here. If you have, maybe to Muskoka, the Falls, really any major city, any countryside in Canada, and you compare it to any place you go in that fucking shithole that he lives in, he's also disingenuous and he's lying. Now, when it comes to government, because here he's going to get to it, I want you to listen to pay very close attention to what he says here.
Well, you get real cold water.
Oh, yeah. You get real cold water in Canada. What a fucking insight, Joe. You Neanderthal fuck. What insight. You get cold water. Look at the smile on his face. Like, I fucking hit pay dirt with the cold water comment. That was awesome.
Been up there.
I don't go up there anymore.
You refuse, right?
Yeah. I just fucking, what they've done up there, what they did with the
what they've done. Let's get to that. What have we done?
Trucker rally, and
they weren't truckers. They were piped in. They were just people that were pretending to be truckers so they could take over the fucking city. We've established that multiple times. There were 104 trucks and about 600 cars. So they didn't, and they occupied a city for 3 weeks. So there's that.
Was doing with guns and
what's Trudeau doing with guns? What's he doing? Banning handguns and semi-automatic weapons? Yeah. We owning a gun here, according to the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, is
that you're never gonna win that battle.
No, I've already won it. I've already won it. If you live here, and
I mean,
Charter of Rights
listen,
and Freedoms, fuck you.
No, you can't have that conversation with anybody from the U.S.
I could care less.
It'll melt your mind.
Well, I know, but I'm explaining this to Canadians. Like he's got an issue with guns in a gunless country. In a country that you don't have a right to own guns. And Trudeau isn't doing anything other than getting rid of handguns and assault weapons. And if you need a handgun or assault weapon to go and kill a bunny rabbit, then you're a piece of shit too. Anyway, I digress.
And what they're trying to clamp down on censorship on the internet.
Yeah, there's no censorship. Joe Rogan said that as well.
And that guy can eat shit.
Yeah, so Justin Trudeau can eat shit because everything that Joe Rogan said is absolutely fucking 100% wrong. Awesome. And I'm not a Justin Trudeau fan. We've established that. Yeah.
Like that place needs 100% an overhaul of government. Like
yeah. So he knows nothing about the government, nothing about the parliamentary system, our electoral system, our party system. He knows nothing about how we vote. He knows nothing about MLAs, MPPs, municipal, federal, provincial politics. But he knows that we need an overhaul of the government. He knows that we're a communist frozen shithole and we've got cold water. So you've got millions of people taking that in going, yeah.
Well, okay.
Go ahead. I had to get
now,
it out.
there's sort of a mirror side to this too. When you go on with Joe Rogan and you have an alternative opinion to him, you can feel it coming out of the microphones. You can feel people dodging certain topics and things, unless people are brave. Like a Bill Burr will go in guns a-blazing, and I always appreciate his stops on the Rogan podcast. The Rock, and I think the Rock is a pretty good guy, but I don't think he sees eye to eye with Joe Rogan. He's promoting something. He was on there a couple weeks back, and you could just feel this sort of energy where he was avoiding certain conversations, right? And they dip their toes in some waters, political waters, but you could feel like, I need to change the topic. So Joe does it. He sort of shifts the way he's presenting things depending on the guest in front of him. And then the guests do it as well because of the power. And that's not even Joe Rogan's fault. You can be angry at Joe Rogan if you want, but it happens on both sides, right? And because people are going to see the benefit of being on that show. So, and so that's what bothers me about Joe Rogan in the last, I still listen, and I've been listening for quite a few years, but that's what sort of bugged me about Joe recently, is that because of how powerful it's gotten and out of, he's lost some humility. Now, here's the other thing that I think needs to be sort of established.
He's a fucking idiot.
In the States, politically, if you, this guy sent me a note and he was asking me questions about applying for a job, and so we were going back and forth on email, and he said, because he's in the States right now and he wants to come home, and in Canada he's a conservative and is very concerned about the Conservative Party in Canada, right? He's quite bothered by Justin Trudeau, like a lot of people are, and thinks there needs to be a change. But then he's sort of in the same boat as me. He's like, this conservative movement that's happening right now, this far right wing conservative movement, is very shocking and is very concerning. And I just think there's a lot of things that are going to happen once they do get into power that we're going to be just very bothered by collectively as a nation. And he was like, in the States, I'm a Democrat. In Canada, I'm a conservative. So there's this weird sort of imbalance when you compare the two countries. And I don't know if Joe, again, I don't think Joe's a dumb guy, but he's never said he's a smart guy.
Those are not the conversations, dude. Those are not points made by smart people. Those are not ambiguous points made by people that know what they're talking about. He's an idiot.
But you don't tune into Joe Rogan for smart commentary. I'm sorry. You don't.
That's why people take him seriously.
But if you are taking him seriously, I think that's a problem. Yeah. That when I listen to Joe Rogan, I separate what he's saying because I know he doesn't have a clue about what's going on here.
Totally.
But the bigger problem I have with Joe is the hypocrisy. He keeps talking about how we shouldn't be doing an us and them thing, that we should be communicating more. But then he does bullshit like that, which completely.
So we shouldn't do us versus them. And this was in the first few minutes of his podcast.
Effective. Especially you live in the fucking frozen communist shithole of Canada.
Us versus them. That's awesome. You know, I think we can make it, like, if you like that brand of entertainment, which is just pure
I like his guests.
Bullshit.
I feel like I gained something from hearing somebody else on his show with another and I have.
But when he's not talking about things he doesn't understand and he's talking to another person, that's different. That's his opinion.
I can't judge him for that because I jump into those waters daily.
Yes, you do. But my point is this: is that there's a gentleman
swimming around with a snorkel and
there's a gentleman on the screen from Canada. He's like, "Welcome to Canada. I fucking hate your country. It's a shithole." And then he says 4 complete untruths that he knows nothing about, and cites those as to reasons why he's never going to come here, and how Canada needs a government overhaul. And do you know who does take that seriously here? Fucking hillbillies. That's who take that seriously.
But that's who he's getting from Canada. He's getting these hillbillies from Canada.
You're a little bit brighter than most, right? And so you look at that as entertaining. You look at that as like, hey, he's fucked to the head. He's just, of course I don't take him seriously. I don't take his medical opinions because you're smart. There are people who are not, who are like, fucking government overhaul. Let's go to Ottawa. Let's get a noose. Let's go fucking figure this out. Legitimately, right? And so, you know, when you've got like the same people that Pierre Poilievre,
he didn't start the activation of that group though. That's been going on a long, long time. We've talked about that.
Totally, but it adds fuel
to
the stochastic fire.
Absolutely
not helping,
right? You're right.
You talk about division in Canada, ginning up dumber Canadians to think, yeah, we need a war. That's why they show up. That's why they get mad. That's why they mob prime ministers. And then you've got third-party agencies like the guys suing me, Canada Proud, that are putting that clip out saying, do you agree with Joe that Canada's a shithole? I mean, how proud of you are you of Canada? Not at all. And the same people, Canada Proud, connected to True North, connected to Rebel News through a series of relationships, They all work for Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative Party. So they start pushing that stuff out.
Yeah.
It's this concerted effort to embarrass the same dumb fucks that I'm talking about into going and doing something stupid and getting them on side with the stochastic terrorism that we see all the fucking time. And so a guy like Joe, high as fuck on kratom or weed or whatever it was that he smoked or drank before he actually got on the show and started doing the whole show with his eyes closed. Hey, man, I'm a fucking edgelord. Is literally disemboweling the beauty and the majesty of a democratic country that we live in.
Yeah,
the freest of all countries in the world.
I think we have things we need to work on, though.
Of course we do. But my point is this:
it seems a little hypocrisy. There's a lot of hypocrisy when he's
and
talking
duplicity,
from the States.
hypocrisy, duplicity on top of the fact that he got everything wrong and used it to tell this guy, "I hate where you're from. It's a shithole," but he knows nothing about it. And then everybody back home's like, "This is a shithole," and that is one of the major reasons why we're here. That is one of the. So when people say, "I just listen to him for the entertainment," I'm like, okay, I get that. Like you, Bill Burr, of course you're not going to miss it. The Rock, of course you're not going to miss it. But then you talk about how he's different with guests.
I'm not going to catch Derek.
No, of course you're not. You're not going to go, ooh, Derek from Canada. That'd be a great podcast. I don't fucking know who the guy is.
I missed that one.
Yeah, I don't know if you can say you missed it. But in the biggest scheme of things, right? Like really think about it. We give him a pass based on entertainment while it poisons the brains of the dum-dums. And so we're left to pick up all the pieces. And people go here that are attached to him, whether it be Poilievre through Jordan Peterson, whatever. They're all the same culture vultures. That same hateful, I don't know anything about the shit I'm talking about, but I'm going to say it anyway, just so I can gin up support for this culture or that vibe. That doesn't work in a vacuum, dude. They all connect with each other and they all share the same message.
Yeah, but I don't think anyone's paying Joe Rogan to have Derek 2 plates and 1 ball cap or whatever. Like, I don't know what the hell his thing is, but it doesn't matter. Okay, I'm going to tell a quick little story. Do you have story time music?
Locked. Yeah, I don't. Do I have story time music?
No, I'm kidding. Please don't. So we have this auction on the radio station right now, 95.7 Cruise FM, 10 days of Christmas auction. Okay, you can go bid on it. There's a link at 957cruisefm.ca. Mm-hmm. Some guy wants to put his merchandise from an organization that he is a part of, that he represents, to separate Alberta from Canada and join the United States of America. My boss thought we could have some fun with him. Says, you should get this guy on the show. So I contact him. I tell him right up front, I 100% disagree with your idea of what separating Alberta. And if you want, you can come on. We can have some fun with it.
Is it Terry? Is that the dude you talked about? Was it Terry? His name was Terry.
Remember?
It was. Yeah.
So anyway, Terrace shows up. He gets me in touch with somebody that's also part of the organization, not even Canadian. He's living in Mexico, blah, blah, blah. I was so annoyed by these two that it was an awful interview. And it was like 15, 20 minutes long. And I literally went on the air and I said, I've been promoting that I was going to play this all week. I am not, because it was awful, but I'll put it on the podcast. If you guys want to go listen to it, you can. It just didn't go. And I even owned up. I even said out loud, I said, listen, I did not do a good job with this at all. I could have done a better job. I thought that I was going to bring this guy, not to convince him, but I thought we could have a reasonable conversation about two very opposing opinions about where we are and where we should be going. That didn't work. I just got pissed off. I even asked you to go and listen to the interview, and you listened to it, and you agreed that I did not handle it well.
You can't have a reasonable interview with unreasonable idiots. It's impossible.
But there's things I could have done. There's a couple of things I could have done that I think that could have made that interview better, right? Anyway, the point being is that now a couple of people have reached out to me since that interview that have stumbled across it. One recently, this guy, and he goes out of his way to invite himself onto the show.
Mm-hmm.
I need to come on because those two guys didn't do this topic justice. And we went back and forth on Facebook this weekend while I'm in Vancouver, by the way. I don't know why I do this to myself. I'm dealing with some family stuff. I got a member of the family that's really sick, so I'm down there doing that, and I'm sitting there going back and forth with this dickhead about, like, he feels like he deserves an opportunity to come on the show and tell everybody that we need to separate from Canada. And I'm like, I'm not doing this. This is not going to happen. We're not having this conversation. I shouldn't have opened the door to these assholes anyway. And then he accuses me of controlling the narrative. Right? That's when I'm like, I'm out. I'm like, if he responds to me again, I'm going to block him. But the thing is,
let me break that down.
The point I wanted to make was there's a group of people in this country that are, and I keep saying this out loud, and I've said it out loud on this podcast numerous times, and it really concerns me. There's a group of people in this country that are so mad at Justin Trudeau, that hate him so much. They think, and this is how bad it is, they think it's a good idea, Dean, to separate our province from this country.
Do you know why?
Like,
I'll tell you why. There's two reasons.
Please don't say they're fucking dumb, because it's scary how many people, Dean,
are that
it's
dumb?
growing.
Yes,
it's
it is.
Growing.
Yes, it is. Half the world's dumber than you think they are. Okay. And the other half isn't as smart as you think they are. There's a very select few people that have the ability to reason. Here's the reason why. Number one, because they're hooked up via IV to that bullshit. Guys like him, guys like Danielle Smith, Sovereignty Act, we need to separate, Canada pension, but all fire hose bullshit, Western Standard, True North, Canada Proud, all of them. It's like, how can we be provocateurs? How can we put our thumb in the eye of the rest of the country so we can get what we want? Because they're pussies. So there's that. They get the pussy IV jammed into their arm, the disinformation pussy IV. It's something that we fight all the time. And the second reason is, and you touched on it earlier, and it's hard to wrap your head around, but they're too dumb. They're just too dumb to get it. Like, I listened to your interview with Terry, and the other gentleman. They couldn't string a fucking sentence together, dude. That's why the interview didn't go well, because they were too stupid to formulate the reasons that they were pissed off and why they thought Alberta should secede. And everybody else that believes it,
I think we also have
stupid literally too stupid to reason through their own resentment and reason past or even listen to any information outside of the things that gives their anger comfort. And they live on anger and resentment. They have been told by their parents for years.
It's more
churches, by everybody else.
It's more that than intelligence.
But to stay that angry,
they need
mentally ill.
They need fuel.
You got to be mentally ill to stay that angry. You have to be emotionally and mentally unwell, and you also have to be not very bright, and you can't be educated, because if you know anything about Canada's sovereignty, your sovereignty of Alberta, if you know anything about the Confederation of Ontario, how the pension plan works, or how, what we're trying to accomplish as a global country in a global universe, you know it's a ridiculous notion that will never happen. But these guys will still spend all their time and money on it, like their own time and money, which makes them dumb. So there you go.
But the thing is, a lot of their concerns are rooted
in their hatred for one man. That means they're mentally unwell.
Yes. But it's also there also is some legitimate cause for concern from a lot of them. The problem is, and I saw this more and more as the division increased through the pandemic. We cannot have reasonable conversations anymore. Take the level of intelligence out, and the left always thinks they're way smarter than the right. And so everyone that has that opinion is just a fucking idiot. If you take that out of the conversation and you sit down, you're going to actually agree that some things need to be looked at. That was the problem I had with the pandemic. I had a lot of problems with how it was handled. Timing, situation, like there should have been more discussion after the fact too. Everybody fucked it up. But if you said that, if I would have said that 3-4 years ago on this podcast, everyone would have called me, some right-wing fanatic.
And there's an easy explanation for that too. Like, we didn't know. Nobody knew. We hadn't gone through this before as a society. Last time this happened was like 1918, for fuck's sake. So it's like everybody just calm down.
But we should have sat down
yeah,
after the fact and said,
over.
hey, we could have done this better. We could have done that better. But we can't have those conversations anymore.
Well, no, but you can't have those conversations anymore, though, because like getting into that conversation is a waste of everybody's time. Like if by now
and
you're not vaccinated, you ain't getting vaccinated. I don't give a fuck.
No,
if you are vaccinated, you're not talking about it because you're smart enough to understand, vaccinated people generally, smart enough to understand that bringing it up in a room full of people is going to provide you with nothing but heartache in the evening. Like it's just nothing. You don't need it. And so
on my flight
down back to it, they continue to go back to the idea that, oh, let's talk about this and how you guys, and it's, you know what the fucked up part is? Everybody's grievance in this country is a result of really one or two things. And both of the grievances have to do with how they thought they were talked to or how they thought they were treated.
Yeah.
And you don't get to choose that ever. Like, that's the fucking part that drives me crazy about every victim that lives in this country, and assholes like Joe, and everybody's like, woe's me, because the government made a decision on my behalf and I don't like it. And I'm going to be mad about it for fucking 3 years. I'm going to waste my time, waste your time, waste my life, spend my money being angry. And here's the fucking crazy part of that to me. Nobody knew. And so these people, those people who are too stupid to move on with their lives, who want to just hate one dude because they're told by a political party and all their affiliates, well, he's been the whole problem, so let's hate him. And if we hate him enough, then we'll get what we want and he'll get tossed and all the other shit. Dude, Canada is in the best shape out of every G7 country. Every single one.
What's the end game? Like, that's the thing that I keep wondering about these conversations. If you're that angry, you're still mad about the vaccine or whatever. Like, what do you want? Like, that's the problem we have now, is they just want to be angry, I think.
Yes.
And that's why I'm okay saying no to that guy. First off, why do you think you can just invite yourself onto my show? Like, where did that come from?
He's stupid.
So I have no problem going, no, it is my show. And I get to say who comes on it and who doesn't. And you're not coming on my show. I'm gonna, you know what? Tonight I'm gonna sleep like a princess. I was on the plane to go down to Vancouver and I wore a mask. I'll tell you 2 reasons why I wore a mask.
Congratulations. Okay? I haven't worn a mask in like a year. And I
put a mask on. My wife said, you want to wear a mask? And I said, yeah, I better, because I'm coming off of a cold and it was a bad one and I could still sort of feel it in my chest. So I thought, okay, I'm sick and I should probably wear a mask. And not only that, if there is anything flying around that I haven't caught, I'll probably end up with it, because that happens to me every time I get on a fucking plane. So I put a mask on and there was a guy, he was sitting just in front of me and he eyed me up when we got on the plane, and he sat down and he kind of turned to me once everything kind of settled down and we were, waiting to taxi and take off. And he said, hey, what's up with the mask? And I went, I'm wearing it to upset you. And he said, what? And I just looked at him. I didn't respond again. Because what am I going to...
Dude, there's a perfect response.
He's not wearing a mask.
Yeah,
95% of the plane isn't wearing a mask.
He's doing it to make you feel bad so he can feel good, because he knows he's a fuck. That's how they all are. Yeah. I was on a flight from Toronto to Lisbon several times this summer, but one time I'm like early. I'm like, I'm going to wear a mask, right? And then I decided I'm not going to. Like, I thought I had one in my pocket, and I'm like, I'm going to see if I can get past this thing I got in my head. And I put it, I'm going to roll the dice. We'll see how it goes. It was my decision. So I'm in a seat next to a young lady who is wearing a mask. Actually, she wasn't that young. I call her young, but that's just because I'm being nice. She's pretty old. She's wearing a mask. And there's a guy across the aisle, right? He's not wearing a mask. And he looks at her and he says, you still scared or something? He says to this old lady, and she looked at him and looked down, didn't say anything. And he says, hey, miss, I'm talking to you. Why are you wearing a mask? And I leaned forward and I said to him, how about you shut the fuck up and let her do whatever she wants? Like, we're letting you do whatever you fucking want. And he goes, you don't have to get aggressive. And I go, you haven't seen aggressive yet, bud. I will if you bother this lady again one more time. And he's like, I'm calling a stewardess. I'm like, fuck, go right ahead. So calls a stewardess. He's like, he's being rude to me. And I'm like, just fucking perfect. Because that's all of them. That is every one of them where they're like, what you're doing upsets me. And when you respond to them with fuck you, they're like, you can't talk to me like that. I'm calling the teacher. They are the biggest snowflakes on the planet. And they try to parade around and make fun of your mask and other masks because they're dumb. They don't get it.
We're in a society right now where people, and I'm bothered by my role in this. And that's why I was so upset with myself for not being able to negotiate that interview with those two morons and do a better job of just having some fun with it. I got angry and it really bothered me, and it's still bothering me. And I think that's why I took time out of my weekend to entertain this guy, right? And
the Facebook guy that wanted to come on your show.
The Facebook guy that wants
shutting
to
out free
come
speech
on
because you wouldn't let him on your radio show.
So anyway, I saw this interview the other day, and they were talking about the Republican Party down in the States. This is last week, and they were talking about where they're at. And somebody said, I have a legitimate question for you. A legitimate question about the makeup of the Republican Party. How many people, like, what percentage of the party is all for Trump? And I can't remember what the numbers are, and I don't want to say them out loud because I might be wrong. But so they were saying, okay, in the Republican Party, out of 100% of all the Republicans right now that will run in the next election, there's, I think it was like 40% or 35% of them are Trump, right? Mm-hmm. They sort of lean on the Trump thing. And then the next question was, and it was a pretty smart question, was how many people out of that 40% actually believe anything that comes out of his mouth? And then the woman goes, my guess is, and it might be a bit more than this, but about 1% of them.
Yeah, they just care that they can line up behind all the other shit. That's all they care about.
They're just avoiding being real with the American public because they're worried about their careers, their jobs, and their paychecks because of
and retribution.
How much support they think that he has in the public. That's sad.
Well, it's sad because it makes people afraid. Like if you translate
here,
that here,
it happens here
all the time.
Not to the same extent, but it happens
dude,
here.
I am living proof of that. We got served a lawsuit by Pierre Poilievre's, the leader of the official opposition, Canada Proud, third-party agency, right? Here's a quick update, which, by the way, we've got a GoFundMe. You can go and donate to it if you like. If you look for it, it's Canada Proud lawsuit. You can look for it on GoFundMe, or you can go to my Twitter feed. It's all over the place. It's going great. Very great. So we're pretty honest about how we feel about gaslighting, misinformation, disinformation. Pretty honest. Brutally honest sometimes.
Yeah.
We get sued by the official digital advertising firm of the Conservative Party of Canada and Pierre Poilievre for saying those things 2 weeks ago, right? 2 weeks. They alleged a bunch of stuff in their pleadings from 10 years ago when I got fired from The Edge. 10 years. Had nothing to do with what they... And by the way, the lawsuit was for embarrassing them, and they asked for, an injunction for me to shut the fuck up right now. An injunction. To never talk about them.
Work.
Of course not. Well, clearly. Two, which didn't work. Two, they want $200,000. It was about controlling the narrative and money. That's all the lawsuit was.
125 and 75. They had it broken down into
it's just whatever. So we have very good lawyers, and the people who watch the show, who support our stuff, supported us to the point where we could get good lawyers from the GoFundMe. And people are still pouring support into the GoFundMe, pouring it in because people are tired of this shit.
Yeah.
We got a note back today, and I'll save the short strokes out of respect for the legal proceeding. We got a note back today. Basically, my understanding of the note was, can we just hurry this up because we want it to be over soon? And I'm like, and we'll take a bunch of stuff out of our part of the lawsuit. And I'm like, all right.
So the threat didn't work.
So
now they're
that's
like,
how I
okay.
translate it. Could be wrong. I say that with all due respect. I am not a lawyer. That's how I translated it. So everything that you see, every threat, every admonishment, every story, everything that these people curate. And by the way, this is the same group, Canada Proud, that over the span of like 2-3 hours of like a few weeks ago threatened dozens of people with the exact same language on Twitter who just critiqued what they were saying about their client, who's a conservative, who's buddies with Jordan Peterson, another connection to Joe Rogan. It's all the same alternative reality these guys try to spin, and then they try to prevent people from actually talking about it, telling the truth, or having a difference of opinion that's not rooted in the same hateful bullshit opinions shared by dumb people for dumb people to radicalize those same dumb people. So doesn't work when someone goes, yeah, I'm not dealing with that, so fuck you. Doesn't work. It doesn't work. And when people stand up and say, hey, this is not for me, and it's untrue, and let's fight about it, let's do it in the public square, all that bluster disappears. All of it. People will do it online, but to your point with your interview with Terrence, or whatever the fucking guy's name was from Let's Leave Canada, Alberta.
But I should have handled it.
No, you shouldn't have, because you can't get blood from a stone. That's my point. These people get right to the edge of the cliff, and then you're like, okay, show me what you got in your pockets. And they're like, I'm bankrupt. I got nothing. It was all a fucking ruse. Like, that is how this entire movement is. And somehow we sit there and we're like, yeah, I'm too afraid to deal with it, or I don't want to have that conversation. I'll have every one of those conversations with every one of those people, and I put my money in my mouth where it matters when it comes to this kind of stuff. To the point where I'm like, I'm not going to roll over. I am never going to roll over for some guy who's going to say, you need to stop talking about us. And let's break that down real quick, too. Let me just put this to you. You've got people in the United States, to your point, afraid of not voting for Donald Trump because they're afraid of what's going to happen to them, right? I was just threatened with a lawsuit, which is ongoing. People telling me that they want my silence. And I've had hordes of bots that support these people, call me pedophile, groomer, people saying they're going to come to my house and get me on Twitter because of this. It's the same thing. But I happen to know something that they don't. None of it's real. These are all paid agents. These are opportunities. This is a ruse to scare the shit out of people into not fucking telling the truth and saying, hey, that's wrong. I'm not that guy. I'll never be that guy. And so if we want common sense people, whether who you vote for, who gives a shit? But we should be asking for the same thing, which is, why the fuck are political institutions allowed to threaten and scare private citizens? How and why? Because of people like Joe Rogan, who call countries like this a shithole full of commies that needs to be taken out. That is why,
like I said,
we're here.
I'm
all the time.
I'm a little bothered by the jump we've made.
Well, it's not Joe Rogan's fault,
because the bridge,
but he's in the mix, is what I'm saying, right?
I'll accept that, but
yeah, well, it's the messaging. Yeah. It's the same thing. Joe Rogan is the dumb person.
A couple of blocks to the road. I'm not comfortable with. Okay, here's the other thing. Yes. Here's the other thing. I think the issue that I have right now is the fact that a lot of these conversations that we should be having, we can't have. And I guess I'm disappointed because I want to be the guy that can actually have those conversations. And unfortunately, that's not happening right now. And we're more and more divided, and that divide just continues. And we keep finding new and exciting ways to divide each other. Like there's another conflict in the world, and all of a sudden that becomes divisive.
Yeah, but we're afraid of calling people what they are. Like,
it's crazy though, Dean.
Yeah, but
you're
afraid to call a stone a stone. You know, like that's the thing that bothers me about the world that we live. Totally, is that we live in this both sides world, where just to blunt the hatred you get from people on whatever side that you're talking to, whatever argument you're discussing, you know you're going to get it from one side or the other, no matter what you say. Right.
Yeah.
And so people have to both sides everything. I'm going to tell you right now, in the United States, what are the Democrats doing that's terrible for the United States? Nothing that I see. What are liberals in Canada? And I do not like Justin Trudeau. What are they gaslighting? Are they rage farming? Are they lying?
Yeah.
Are they hooked up with fucking bad faith actors, telling everybody what they should hate and what they shouldn't? Telling everybody how Canada should work.
There are elements of that.
I mean, there's not much.
The separation of the division is, and that's the bigger issue I think we have right now, Dean, is that both sides seem to have this idea that the other side is worse than the other one.
Yeah, but if
and
you're
that,
a smart person, you can look at things based on
infinitely-
merit, right? Like you can look at issues based on merit and receipts, as opposed to just going, "We need to hate the same guy."
My problem is that if you are so smart, if the left is so brilliant and everyone else,
I am much
that's
smarter
the right
than most. Yes,
and if the liberal is, then why can't you sit down and actually take responsibility for what you're causing?
Like what?
Like the issues.
What am I causing?
I'm just saying.
Yeah, but point it out, and I'll take you. Dude, here's the thing. Again, based on merit.
If Justin Trudeau can't admit that he's played a part in the division in this country based on how he presents himself to the public, that's on him. He's got to go to his grave with that.
Yeah.
But that man, when he speaks, it's infuriating. I'm sorry. And if he doesn't see that,
I know at times like the screaming
issue.
and the yelling and we're never going to do this and calling it dude, I get it. I don't like him because he called the COVID election. He thought he'd get some free seats out of it. I'm like, dude, we're sick. And he's like, fuck you. I'm going to do it anyway. Power grab. Then that didn't work. And he got together with Jug Meat. And I'm like, oh, of course.
The coalition.
However, glad they did it now. And I'll tell you why. Because I've watched Pierre Poilievre in the House of Commons drunk off his ass this last weekend. And I watched him tell Ukraine to stuff it. Not good. We don't want to send you any more aid. Then I watched him basically say, we don't want to fund any sexual assault studies in this country. And I don't want gender-based anything taught in schools. He legitimately voted down funding for a Holocaust museum this weekend. Lost every vote, 137-0. And I'm standing here going, how are we both sidesing this again? How are we doing that? Right? And then he shows up to something that he said was going to take through Christmas. They were going to stay in the House of Commons and vote down things all the way through Christmas just to be dicks, just to waste our time, waste our energy, waste our government money, waste our money.
That's a big. I got a real issue with the right.
For what? I'll tell you what he did it for. TikTok video clips. Because you know how long he was in the House of Commons and wasted, apparently, by the way, and I've got video that proves it. Whether he was wasted on fucking good times or whether he was hammered ass drunk, he was absolutely belligerent and looked hammered. He was there for 2 out of the 30 hours. He had someone voting by phone for him so he wouldn't have to occupy his time with something that he thought was important. And what did he vote against in those 30 hours? More aid for Ukraine. No word of a lie. Yeah. Funding a Holocaust museum. Voted against that. Voted against gender studies. Voted against sexual assault bills.
That's kind of where we're at, Dean. We've drawn a line in the sand, and you know what? We can sit here and talk about right or wrong, who's right, who. But the thing is,
right.
we're having these conversations about who supports what, and so if the left supports that, I'm going to be against it. That's the scary part about where we're at politically. Yeah. And you know what?
It's not even political, dude.
The hypocrisy of somebody like Joe Rogan, who lives in Texas of all places, in a democracy that is coming undone at the seams.
Can I tell you something about Texas right now?
For them, for them to be criticizing what we're going through is just asinine. And the problem is no one, there isn't a Canadian that he's had on his show that would stand up to him and say, you got your head up your ass. Right?
I'm that guy. But Joe would never do that. None of those people would ever have me on their show.
None of them would ever do it.
Somebody smarter than them is a threat to them. And I am smarter than Joe Rogan. We all are as Canadians. To your point, Texas. Right now, there's a lady named Katie who's carrying a dead baby in her womb, who tried to get an abortion, tried to have it taken out, does not want to give birth to a stillborn, rotting fetus, doesn't want to be forced to do it. She's being forced to do it. She actually just left Texas. because the Attorney General, Ken Paxton, overturned a Superior Court ruling to force her to birth that dead baby. To force her. That is in Texas. Joe Rogan's in Texas. He wants to call Canada a shithole. Joe can go suck on that.
And this is why we'll never meet aliens. They look at us and they just go,
"What are you doing?
You guys are a mess." Yeah. It's a mess.
Yeah.
It's a complete disaster.
But that's the alternative reality they are all trying to create for like-minded Canadians and dumb Canadians equally. They are doing it to legitimately troll you and force people to give them money. And they're doing it for Christian nationalists and certain business interests that align with Christian nationalist business interests. And they're rage farming into the Muslim community and the Christian community and conservative communities. They've got like, dude, we are fucked unless we do something about these things. And it's going to take people like you, me, other people, much more important people than us, to stop both sidesing shit. Just because you don't want to hear it from a fucking group of people.
I've been failing at it, so I'm critical of myself.
We all are. We try to. We grew up trying to, play both sides. In the media game, they're like have competing opinions all the time. There's no such thing as a competing opinion. And it wasn't even the worst thing to happen in Canada this weekend. Did you follow the Shohei Ohtani signing?
Okay. When that first started to rear its ugly head, I said to Grant, because Grant's a big baseball fan, I said, there's something wrong here. This doesn't feel right. And you can get him on the phone and I swear to God, I said, I don't want to be that guy, but there's no way that the Blue Jays are getting this player. Doesn't
make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. They're not going to let this happen. The major leagues.
That's why we were freaking out, because we all thought the same thing. We're like, there's no way Major League Baseball wants him in Toronto.
I'm like, what sports donkeys have got this thing, have given it any legs? And I said to Grant, I am not talking about this. This is not real. And then every day we'd go in and there'd be a headline and it would be something Shohei Ohtani, and I'm like, this can't be real. What is going on here?
I'll tell you what happened. I know what happened now. Like, definitively.
He was using Toronto to get a better deal. That's all it was.
So here's what happened. And, part of me is like,
Toronto got played like a fiddle.
A buddy of mine is in the center of this whole thing. His name's John Morosi, JP Morosi. He's one of baseball's greatest insiders. And I know him. And he could be one of the nicest, most honest human beings you've ever met in your life. I am not kidding you when I say that. And I've got no problem sewering dickheads. He's the farthest thing from it. And he doesn't boot things, ever. So he puts out a tweet saying Shohei Ohtani's on a flight with a CAA agent. Now, CAA is the agency, creative artists, something agency that represents a bunch of Hollywood guys, represents a bunch of athletes. So Toronto goes nuts. It's coming. Everybody's coming. Shohei's on a
plane. Were watching that. We were watching, like, they were tracking his flight. I'm like, this is too much.
It's a Bombardier 5000 Globemaster. It's going to be here. It's coming from Anaheim. It's going to be here. SoCal. It's coming. He's on the flight. It's like, wow, this is incredible. He's coming. He's going to be here. He's going to be a Blue Jay forever. Plane lands. Radio silence. Bob Nightingale, another excellent reporter who boots things from time to time, but he put out an article after this whole thing. He's like, we need to be better than this. We're ridiculous. Bob Nightingale reports Shohei Ohtani is not on that flight. He is in Southern California. He is not signed in Toronto. As that happens, this is like 10 minutes after we finish a podcast with Rachel Dory, who just joined us, and she's like, he's coming. We're following the whole thing. I'm like, yeah, that's going to be great. Apparently he's on a plane. We're going to have a great time. Shohei, Toronto, big deal, billions, awesome, fun. Everybody loses their mind. Every television station is tracking this plane in the city of Toronto. Every sports station has stopped all their programming and put baseball guys on to talk about the impending signing of Shohei Ohtani. Like, it is on in the city, by the way. Do you know who got out of that plane? Robert Herjavec from Dragon's Den. Here's what happened.
There's some jokes there.
Yeah. Robert Herjavec is also represented by CAA. What has come to light in the past 24 hours, this is factual. CAA went to John Morosi. They go, don't tell anybody. You can tweet it out if you like. Shohei's coming to Toronto. He's going to be on that flight, which, by the way, the Twitter handle for that flight, that plane had its own Twitter handle for up until 2014 and wasn't active, and all of a sudden became active again, which has now since been deleted. Yep, I'm leaving. I'm going to Toronto, flight says. That's what the Twitter handle of the plane says. Someone had typed it in. So it is believed to be true that the CIA agents falsely leaked this to John and a guy named JP Hoonstra from Dodgers Nation, who reported the exact same thing at the exact same time, that Shohei was coming. And the reason why they did that was to force the Dodgers to pony up an extra 100 to 150 million so they could jack the price up. No word of a lie. Shohei was not going to sign here. It was all cooked up. The whole thing was this ruse. And absolutely let John take the heat for it, which he did. He fell on his sword. He goes, I was wrong. I'm sorry. He since tweeted then, and he's back to business, but he went silent for like 2 days, which is like the kiss of death for anybody in that industry, right? Like an insider, kiss of death. And the entire goal was to play Toronto against the Dodgers at the 11th hour with a very venerable baseball insider talking about it to make them believe it, make the Dodgers believe it, so they could go, you know what? 700 million it is. Welcome to Los Angeles. And that is exactly what happened. Robert Herjavec was apparently in on it, represented by the same person that represents Shohei Ohtani.
Illegal.
Dude, for like 2 hours that afternoon on Friday, 2 hours, Rogers Center was selling 500 level tickets for $300 a pop. Like, ticket prices went through the roof, and you couldn't fucking log on to buy season tickets for like 2 hours. It was like bang, 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 bang. Now those same seats that Friday were selling for $200-300 are selling for like 40. It's one of the great stories of all time. And we totally got Kawhi again, where we follow a play and he's signing. It's going to happen. Boom. Doesn't happen. Happened in 2019 with Kawhi Leonard. Happened again 5 years later with Shohei Ohtani. We are one of the greatest free agent trade bait traps in the world. And we should have known it. I should have known it. You called it. There's no way he was going to sign here. We were always bait. That's all we were. We should have known. But it was confirmed over the past 24 hours.
I didn't want to be that negative guy because I was like, what if it does happen? That would be amazing. At least you have Tavares.
Hey, they won 4-0 the other night, by the way. On a bit of a heater.
7 in a row for the Oilers.
Yeah, I know. They're back. Which I'm happy about. Anyway, nice to see you today. That was fun.
That was a good one. I need to do better, though. I do. I need to find a way to maybe I'll send a note back to Brett.
Yeah, tell him to come on the show. Yeah, do it. Fuck Brett. If he's too stupid, don't have him on. You'll have another train wreck. I want to point this out. These people do not pay me. This is a freebie, and I'm passing this on to you. Have you had this?
I've had Kicking Horse.
Kicking Horse coffee. It's called Kick Ass. It's the dark roast. Apparently, there's another dark roast called 454. I brought this into my office today to tell everybody, and I'm a coffee-aholic. 4 or 5 cups a day. I'll always have a coffee. Really enjoy it, and I go through thousands of these things. Like I know you've got whiskey in there, though. This is the best coffee I've ever had in my life, and I drink a lot of it all over the place, and I'm a big fan of it. Kicking Horse coffee.
I'm a big fan of the Kicking Horse.
It is. There's another one apparently called Three Sisters. I got to try it. I got so much action on Twitter after I posted a picture of this. And again, I don't know these people.
It's a great coffee.
I follow them on Twitter. That was it. This is just like a kindness from me to you that if you're a coffee person, that's what you need. You need that in your life. This is what you need. You don't need anything else.
It's so good.
Dude, it's the best coffee I have ever.
It's Canadian too, isn't it?
It's from BC, dude.
I was going to say, I didn't want to say where it's from because I wasn't positive, but I have had it. They actually, every once in a while, not always, they'll have it in Costco in Alberta. Yeah, like they'll have no, not a stand. They'll have like a what is it, a flat of it or whatever,
yeah.
pallet of it, and it goes like that, and then it won't be there again. Yeah, I think it's in. Yeah, Kyle's right. Invermere, BC, Kicking Horse. There's a pass called Kicking Horse Pass. I think
that is near Invermere.
I could be.
You might be right.
Yeah, Kyle. I think Kyle's right.
Smoky. Yeah, it is Invermere, BC. You're 100% correct. Invermere, BC. Yeah. Canada. VOA. 1K2 postal code Kicking Horse Coffee Company Limited. Thank you, Kicking Horse.
I was going to. I was in Vancouver. That's one thing that I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try to shop more local. The wife and I actually had a conversation with a couple of weeks back because we went to the farmers market and we were like, we really like that. Like, I love the farmers market, and we're sort of convenience shoppers. We kind of like to get done. We don't, you know what I mean? But we need to spend some more time looking into things like, local businesses and trying different products and things like that. And when I was in Vancouver, I was going to stop in and hit Parallel 49. We were downtown, my mom and I saw their sign and I was like, we should go in and check it out. But I didn't because it wasn't the right environment.
I'm at that age too, where it's like, I'll try other people's coffee. I'm not one of those guys that's like, you're like when you're really old, you just have Maxwell House or No Name. But like I'm so old and so useless, and my life is so boring that like I'll see a new coffee shop that makes their own coffee, like Reunion Coffee downtown. I'm like, I gotta go there. I want to try it.
Gotta go try it.
That's what I do sometimes. I'll like spin around it because I am that boring now. Boring that I love doing.
Part of my this week was to go to Ontario to have the McRib, and I'm not disappointed I did that.
You came to Ontario to have the McRib?
No, that was Grant's joke. So I'm just trying to play into it. Like all day, people have been asking me how the McRib was because he was on the show this morning saying I was in Ontario.
I saw that tweet. I'm like, he came here for the fucking McRib.
That was Grant being a
commitment to the McRib when you take a flight to go and have a McDonald's sandwich, loose meat sandwich. That's what that is. That's impressive. If you did that, I would go, yeah, dude, you win the day.
As soon as I found out that he was doing that, I'm like, why didn't I?
I might go get one.
Another reason to be disappointed in Locke.
Anyway, good to see you, dude. Thanks for doing this.
It was good. Yeah. We'll keep in touch this week.
Yeah. Okay? We'll talk to you in the next couple of days. Lochlin Cross 957 Cruise FM at Edmonton is where you can find him, at Lochlin Cross on Twitter as well. Thanks to everybody for being part of the show. Really appreciate it. Hopefully it made some sense to you today. And I want to thank our partners and friends at Cantork for making this possible. Canada's assembly tool experts. Brand new website. Go to cantork.com today for more information. They make the best hardworking torque wrenches in the world. They manufacture around the world, but they do it out of Canada because they're proud to be Canadian. They employ Canadians, and they manufacture in Canada. This is one of the very few companies that does in this regard, but they make torque wrenches for every bolting project. They've got your solution. Make sure you go to cantork.com today. Check out their new website. We're brought to you by our friends Gitch. EdsFineImports.com is where you can find underwear, luxury branded boxer briefs, pouch in the front, made for Canadians, so the pouch is bigger. Joe Rogan. Duh. So, if you need the best luxury boxer brief pouch in the front on the planet, EdsFineImports.com. Gitch3 is your promo code. Use that promo code. It'll give you a free pair of underwear. You're welcome, world. And, of course, brought to you by our friends at Muse on the Mic podcast. Muse Massage Spa, 1290 Finch Avenue West in the city of Toronto. It's Canada's premier body rub parlor, and it's bingo month. All bingo month, you get a chance to win a daily draw, collect and win, redeem your prize all winter long. But make sure you go there and make sure you download their podcast. Emily and Riley do a great job. Advocates for the sex work industry. They've got a Patreon podcast as well, Muse on the Mic Patreon. And you can go and download the podcast anywhere you get your fine podcasts as well. It's great. They'll take you through like the business of what they do, which is truly absolutely incredible. And the advocates and the safety of their industry and what they do for people, how much they love men, the minutia of the body rub industry, and the podcast all about sex work. Go to museonthemic.com today. Or musemassagespa.com. Go give them a visit, 1290 Finch Avenue West. And make sure you download their podcast. You can get it at Crier Media, crier.co, or you can also get their podcast anywhere you get your fine podcast. Again, Muse on the Mic. Have a great day, everybody. See you in the next day or two. Yeah, we're back tomorrow. Yeah. Back with Adler tomorrow. Dean and Chuck, little roadhouse show. We're gonna have a good time. Break down some fun stuff. Talk about the government of India, who's now just killing Canadians and helping conservatives. That's tomorrow. Have a great day. We'll see you then.